Or Petrobras have a legal right granted by the New Zealand government to carry out their seismic work. In my view, they should be allowed to.
He was detained and questioned about a multi-billion-dollar corruption scandal involving the national oil company Petrobras.
Emotions are running high in Brazil as the corruption investigation into the state-owned oil company Petrobras takes a sensational turn.
I don't ever believe I've traded shares for my own personal benefit with information that I've had from Parliament.
We're currently about 35 miles north of the East Cape, and the Petrobras oil seismic survey vessel has just gone over an area that's about 3,000 metres deep. So that's about twice the depth of the Gulf of Mexico spill. We're here today to try to stop the surveying, to stop deep sea oil. We believe it's a risky and highly dangerous activity.
Do you think that Greenpeace has gone too far? Should the activists, if they can be charged, be charged?
Or Petrobras have a legal right granted by the New Zealand government to carry out their seismic work. In my view, they should be allowed to carry out that seismic work because it's important that we understand what is the opportunities that present themselves in the Rokamara Basin. Petrobras have the legal right to carry out their seismic work.
Blue whales live solitary lives in the vastness of the world's open oceans. They have evolved calls that carry over huge distances. They use low-frequency rumbles. These sounds can travel over 500 miles.
It's Mike Hosking.
But the police and the Navy might well need to be brought in to get the protesters out at sea over the oil exploration business sorted. Petrobras, of course, have got the permit to look for oil off the coast of the East Cape.
The sea is our life, our mother, our home.
New Zealand.
Aotearoa.
Our people as one.
We protect. We serve.
We defend.
We preserve.
We are your best.
Your bravest all.
We are your Navy.
This is an extraordinary situation because, first of all, the government made absolutely no attempt to have any public process, either for discussing whether we want deep-sea drilling for oil and gas or over this particular consent. All of this has been done without any opportunity for public input or input by the local people. The environmental impacts, the pollution impacts, the impacts on the climate, none of those things have been considered. So we've had a non-cost benefit analysis that only looks at the financial flows to a foreign company, and it seems to me that John Key is completely out of order.
We need some clean economic thinking rather than this relentless pursuit for the last few drops of oil that the government has on its agenda.
Brazil's President Dilma Rousseff has voiced her dissatisfaction with the police raid on the home of former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. He was detained and questioned about a multi-billion-dollar corruption scandal involving the national oil company Petrobras.
Well, Petrobras have a legal right granted by the New Zealand government.
He was detained and questioned about a multi-billion-dollar corruption scandal involving the national oil company Petrobras. His supporters clashed with police outside his house after he was taken away. Michael Ortigas reports now from Rio de Janeiro.
Emotions are running high in Brazil as the corruption investigation into the state-owned oil company Petrobras takes a sensational turn. Early on Friday, in a massive sweep that was broadcast live on TV, hundreds of armed police raided numerous properties across 3 Brazilian states. Brought in for questioning, former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the widely popular politician who's known as the champion of the poor. Lula called it a sad day for Brazilian democracy.
All they had to do was tell me that they were coming, but sadly they decided to act with presumptuous arrogance in a show, a spectacle of pyrotechnics.
President Dilma Rousseff, Lula's successor and protege, called the police action extreme.
I want to express my utter dissatisfaction with the fact that former President Lula, who repeatedly appeared on a voluntary basis to provide information before the competent authorities, is now subjected to an unnecessary coercive condition to provide yet more testimony.
Over 50 high-level politicians are suspected of receiving kickbacks and favors from large companies in exchange for contracts with Petrobras. The investigation has been underway for 2 years. On Thursday, Eduardo Cunha, Speaker of the lower house, became the first to face formal charges. Cunha is also leading impeachment proceedings against President Rousseff.
The political turmoil caused by the investigation into Petrobras has paralyzed the government, and many Brazilians are disappointed at the ruling Workers' Party, which under Lula had brought millions of people out of poverty.
The anti-corruption drive speaks to deeper divisions in Brazilian society.
It's a matter of hegemony. I think that, the basic thing is a class division. So you have basically, a traditional middle class and an upper class that has political interests that are, contrary to the more popular oriented governments of the left.
Battle lines are being drawn on the streets and demonstrators are taking sides. The only certainty now is that difficult days lie ahead. Marga Ortigas, Al Jazeera, Rio de Janeiro.
Brazil's former president Lula da Silva has criticized prosecutors for questioning him over allegations of corruption. In a scathing speech after being detained for more than 3 hours, Lula said he'd felt like a prisoner. He described it as a day of disrespect for democracy. The current president and close ally Dilma Rousseff said it was unnecessary for the officers to have detained him. Julia Canaro has more from Sao Paulo.
Outside Lula's house, police clashed with protesters, both supporters and detractors, as news of the former president's detention spread.
A entrevista coletiva da Polícia Federal.
He was taken to a police station for 3 hours of questioning over claims he and his family had benefited from illegal payments.
Hoje, nós estamos analisando.
We're looking at evidence that the former president and his family received advantageous payments. We're still at the investigation stage, but we found no plausible motivation for these payments.
After being released, Lula was driven to the headquarters of the governing Workers' Party. He denied any wrongdoing.
I've been hurt, I feel offended. I didn't need this. I feel outraged, as if I were a prisoner. But if they've tried to get me, they haven't succeeded.
These corruption investigations have dominated Brazilian politics for months now, but the brief detention of former President Lula today signals a new phase and increases the danger for Lula's protege, current President Dilma Rousseff, and for the future of the Workers' Party.
At the heart of today's detention lies a corruption scandal involving Brazil's state-run oil company Petrobras. It investigates a scheme to divert money from Petrobras through overpriced contracts. Now prosecutors say they have significant evidence that Lula benefited from the scheme, and his non-profit organization, the Lula Institute, is under the spotlight. During his 8 years as president, Lula was the face of the Brazilian boom. His detention today is a significant moment.
When such a figure is reached by a criminal investigation, the institution send a message to the whole country that nobody is above the law in Brazil.
Today's development increases the pressure on President Dilma Rousseff, already presiding over a failing economy. The fact that her predecessor, the very symbol of her party, was brought in by police today makes this a very dangerous moment for her. Júlia Carneiro, BBC News, São Paulo.